What's going on, y'all? KM Best here. Welcome back to another episode of the game where I make a bunch of other players from other card games rate cards in Marvel Snap, and we have a special extra hard episode this time because we have a card game genius, Savjz, on the show who has done pretty much everything in the world of card gaming, including actually play Marvel Snap. Now, he hasn't played Marvel Snap in about a year, which means there's about a year's worth of cards and a year's worth of changes for me to ask him about. So this is going to be an extra hard episode because I know a lot of content creators struggle to evaluate these cards as they came out because it's me, I'm content creators. Now we're going to make him evaluate all of them. Savjz, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is really cool. I think the format is really nice, and I'm definitely quite rusty on this, on the new cards and all that. Like maybe sometimes on Twitter I've seen something in passing, but I have not played. I don't know what the best decks are. I don't know. Most of the cards are probably gonna be like I've never even seen, and I definitely don't have any idea what like the good ones are. So this should be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because it allowed me to sort of vent my frustrations. Because like when I was going through it, I was like, what? All of these cards are cards where it's like, okay, I did not know how to evaluate this when it came out. And so I just have, there's like 6 cards on here where I'm like, I'm going to get him on at least half of these. Just law of large numbers, law of averages, half of these he's going to get wrong. That's my goal. My goal, as always, I want to win, which to me means I want to make them wrong. That's how this works for me. I'm not a helpful game show host. I'm the antagonistic game show host in this analogy. Let's get to it. So, this is Black Swan, a 3/5 with the ability to make 1-cost cards in your hand cost 0 on the next turn. That's what she does. Now, you remember the vanilla curve in Marvel Snap. There was Cyclops, the 3-cost vanilla, was a 3/4. So, at baseline, you understand that this is like a slightly above rate card with an ability as well. How good did this card end up being?
Well, just going by the basics, like you mentioned, there used to be a 3-cost, like four power, just as a vanilla, and this is clearly stronger because we have that 1 extra. I'm sure there's been power creep and things are a little stronger now than they used to be, but I think that's a great card. Like when I think about it, the effect, getting your 1-cost cards to cost 0. If you get even 1, that's like if you gain even 1 mana from this, I think that's pretty good because you already get a 3/5, and then like if you get more than that, like let's say Thanos stones, if those still cost 1, I actually don't know what's the state on the Thanos is right now, but I would imagine if you're playing like Thanos and you play the stones for 0, like it sounds really strong. I think this is like very strong card.
Well, it's a good thing we started out with this one because this is a very weak card, actually.
What?
I know it's like this is one of the reasons I wanted to start here because this is like we're setting the baseline. First of all, 3/5, yeah, no, like 3/5 is good. Like no one's gonna sit here and be like 3/5 is not premium stats. That's good stats, but there's a lot of 3/5s right now. And the second thing is her ability. This is the major issue. She requires you when you build around her to play 1-cost cards, and you correctly were like, okay, what if she goes in Thanos? But Thanos wants to be playing those stones on the first 3 turns of the game most of the time. She was like fringe playable there. But typically the way Thanos played out when she was released was it was like, all right, we want to play the stones early or we want to throw them into a lockjaw. And we don't really want to be doing this when she was released. So either they want to be out early so you can ramp into bigger stuff, or you throw them into a lockjaw. You don't necessarily want to just be like doing them for free. Your deck is already built to weave them in as you can. And so other Black Swan decks, it's like, okay, we'll play her with like Zoo. We'll play her with like a variety of cards like that. But 1-cost cards are really bad. And that's like her fundamental deck building issue.
You got me right out the gates. Like that when you say that like that, it makes perfect sense. Like if the 1-cost cards are not worth playing, it's just like this is not going to make them worth playing necessarily. So.
Yeah, like the issue is like,
all right,
she looks like a 3/5 with all upside, but she has a significant deck building cost associated. That is like,
I see.
In order to make her ability matter, you have to play a bunch of these cards, like a critical amount. Like you have to play like probably 4 in order to make that worth doing. And it's like, oh, that's not worth doing. No one wants to play 4 1-drops. So I did say no one wants to play 4 1-drops, but that doesn't mean that all 1-drops are unplayable. I'm going to give you that warning before this, because I don't want you to intuit like, oh, he said all 1-drops are unplayable, therefore this one's unplayable. I don't want to give away any information there, so I'm going to say, there's some nuance to it. This is X23. When it's destroyed or discarded, regenerate it at a random location, and you get +1 energy next turn. Now, I'm going to say that you can get points on this one. Spoiler alert, there's no actual points, but we're going to pretend there are. For 2 things. 1 is telling me how good it is, and 2 is telling me whether or not it's better in destroy or discard.
Ooh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
When this card is destroyed, okay, I'm going to think about it a little bit. I'm looking at the card right now. Regenerate at random location. +1 energy. So my first instinct is that this is probably. Try to think it has some potential, but is it good when you draw it a little later, like at the wrong time, or? So I'm gonna say that this card is good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first answer, and for the second one, I'm pretty sure if I had to pick which one it is better in, I would say that it's better in discard. Mostly because the destroy requires some synergy and some timing, but I feel like with the discard, and I think that this is a little bit almost like cheating, because this is where my knowledge maybe helps. But I remember there's also a card that discards a cheap card from the hand. So I think I don't remember what card it was, but I remember there was some kind of card I don't know if that's getting played. Is it worth playing? But there's something that discard the lowest cost card, and so it would always hit this, and that would be very good, right? So I'm gonna say this is a good card, and it's good in discard mostly.
Okay, so, half credit for that. This is a good card. This is a destroy staple. Ooh. This card is the reason destroy is a deck. And that's part of why I put it on here. Yes, because when you played, destroy was like a meme. No one would play Deadpool, right? That was you just wouldn't do that, right? But she is effectively second Deadpool in terms of when you have her in your opening hand and you keep blowing her up, you can do ridiculous stuff. You get to repeat getting that energy over and over and over and over and over again. You get to play above curve the entire game while making your, death cheaper, your null bigger. You get to do all of this stuff that allows you to play a different style of deck. You have basically the destroy deck is 2 decks. They do all the same thing. But whether you're blowing up X23 or whether you're blowing up Deadpool determines how the rest of the game plays out. And if you're blowing up neither, you probably aren't doing anything. So effectively, this was a huge buff to Destroy archetype since it came out, which I believe was August last year. Okay, Destroy has been a top 5 deck in the game basically since this card came out.
Huh. So that's really interesting. When I think about it now more with your explanation, it makes sense because with destroy, you can destroy it multiple times, right? But with discard, you can only discard it once. So yeah. Wow, you kind of got mostly you. Yeah, I would say you got me again.
You were right that it was right. But I mean, my job is to make these challenging. People show up. Good. Show up. The point of these, I think, I don't actually know. Leave it in the comments if you know. I think the point of these is so people can watch people that they've really looked up to and admired for a really long time be wrong about stuff and then be like, I wouldn't have been wrong about that. I think that's the point.
Yeah, I can definitely take the L's on these. I'm just I think this is fun.
Yeah, no.
So if I get all of this wrong, I'm not even gonna feel bad afterwards.
See, this is always, I've never really asked this on camera, but sometimes people come in here and they're nervous about it. I'm just
don't make me look bad.
Yeah, no one cares. It's not real. If anyone in the comments actually cares, let me know in the comments, and I will, I don't know, hide you from the YouTube channel so you can never comment again. If you want that to happen to you, just let me know. Hope Summers. We're going off the energy theme here. 3/4. After you play a card here, you get an extra energy next turn.
Okay. This one looks. I feel like it seems a little bad because you like I would say this is a bad card because it telegraphs it's what you're doing. Like unless you have something in place that you can like move the Hope Summers and then like, but I think it probably tags the location anyway.
It does not tag the location. This
Okay,
is
so
not
it
an
moves
also.
with her. Okay.
I can tell you're misunderstanding what the ability is. That's not an
Oh.
on reveal.
Oh.
That just happens.
Okay.
So you can do it multiple times.
Yeah. But it's still like, it's still kind of like limited, right? Like you still have to play cards in the same location, so your opponent
Correct.
knows the location, and then you can only like play 3 cards. Technically, so at max you can get 3. I feel like if you're trying to like get out a particular expensive card early, like before the last turn, there's probably like it would be a good card in some kind of deck where it's really important to play a particular card on turn 6. I think that's maybe where it would have its place, but I'm gonna say this is a bad card.
My God. Okay, this is like maybe the best card of the game.
No.
Yes. Like, okay, so there's a lot of context you're missing for this one. There's a lot of context you're missing for this one. I'll grant that, right? Like, there are, I think, probably 3 cards that came out after you stopped playing that have made this card the powerhouse that it is. But like, just baseline, think about playing, say, Nightcrawler and Vision in this lane, right? That's the basic sort of thought process here is like you play those cards in a lane, you get the extra energy, they move into other lanes. You're not locked into playing into one lane. You're effectively free rolling energy. And the cards that like typically go with this, there's a card called Kitty Pride that you play it comes back to your hand, it gains a power. There's a card called Jeff, which is 2-drop Nightcrawler. There's just like this critical mass of dudes you're totally okay playing onto her, moving somewhere else, free rolling the energy. And she's just, you remember Zabu, right?
Which one?
Zabu, the 2-drop, the discounted 4-drops.
I do, yeah.
It was a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
This is effectively the modern day Zabu, where it is just like, this is what mid-range decks are built around now. This is the card that does that thing. It actually got to the point where like Zabu itself was a little bit power crept out of the metagame, and then they nerfed it, and now it's just like totally not a thing. And Hope Summers is like the mid-range card. She is like, you build around her and her core of cards. That's what you do.
Nice. Damn, you got me again. 0 and 3 so far. Oh my goodness.
Technically you're 1 out of 4, right? Because you
got, I guess,
yeah.
Like that one card was good.
Yeah, you got X23 being good. You actually just missed the extra credit question, so really you're 1 out of 3 if we're gonna be real.
Not too bad then.
That's not bad. More energy cards. Corvus Glaive, 3/5. On reveal, discard 2 cards from your hand to get +1 max energy. So this is not a repeatable one. Like, you'll notice the difference here, max energy and +1 energy. This is effectively a permanent buff to your energy, but at the cost of discarding 2 cards from your hand.
Oh. I mean... I think this might be one of those cards where it's like, how good is the discard archetype? When I look at it, I have no idea. Like, I guess one of the earlier cards you mentioned, that discard is maybe. But you didn't say if discard is good or not.
I did not say. I'm very good about that. I'm very good about that.
Yeah. But it's also like, so I'm thinking like, wow, 2 max energy so early, like, and potentially you're discarding some cards that you want to discard. So like, it could even be like two really significant upsides. But could it be bad? Because like maybe discard can't utilize the mana or something. Like that's what I'm thinking. Like, but I'm not sure. And this is also another card that you want to discard with other discard mechanics. You know what? I'm gonna say that this is. Oh, my first instinct is like 2 energy is so good, but
well, it's 1 energy discarding 2 cards.
Oh, you could get right. I'm gonna say that this is a bad card. I think there might be some other cards that discard as well, and when you discard this one, it just doesn't get you anything. So
I think
yeah,
like this is just really interesting because that's exactly the logic, like that mirrored like the idea of like, discard itself, it can't really use the energy, that like that is real, right? Like discard, the apocalypse discard deck. It's not
yeah.
very good at using that extra energy. However, this is a pretty good card. I
Okay.
think I would go out on a limb and say this is a good to not necessarily great card, but it's just a very good card. The reason for that is twofold. First of all, it does go in the typical discard deck. Just because it is a 3/5, you will be able to refill your hand in a lot of various
Hmm.
ways. The second one is it is a card that has revitalized the Hela archetype.
I
This
see.
is a card where you just like Hela is a deck that's full of 6 drops anyway. You're just like, look, if I discard my Hela, I will retreat. If I don't discard my Hela, I will snap. And
Yeah.
discarding 2 cards in the Hela deck when they're like, the Infinite and Giganto, and then
And
making sure
yeah.
you can ramp into Hela or
And getting to
whatever
play
other.
2 6 drops as well. Because you can
Yes.
play like a 6 and 5 and 6 and 6. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a deck where it's like the downside.
Right.
It's actually a deck where it's like this is a snap mechanic deck, right? Like I wouldn't be
Mm.
shocked if Hela had like a relatively like close to 50% win rate and then a very high cube gain rate because of the way this card tends to play out.
Okay. I believe you. I should went with my instinct. My first instinct was that it's good, but then I started overthinking. So
That's how this works, right? Like that's how like one of I think the things that happens here is like I've seen people like fully exactly perfectly analyze how a card is good or bad. They just like go through everything exactly. I'm sitting here making like the shockedest face in the world, and then they say the opposite of their analysis because they like got afraid of it. Like
yeah,
that is
that's been what
it's
happened pretty much.
it's
Yeah, that's what
so
happened.
real. It's so real. The Grand Master.
Ooh,
This is a card I will tell you that was just impossible for anyone to evaluate properly.
wow! Move one of your other on reveal cards here to the middle. Okay. Ability happens again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. I feel like that's pretty good. Like, because if you can get if you're playing cards that I don't know what the best on reveal cards would be. I don't know exactly what you would combo this with, but the 2 cost to repeat another on reveal, I think that can be really powerful. Like I don't know what it would be, but I feel like there has to be something that like like there used to be what was it I don't know if the card works the way it used to, but there was like Shuri, or I remember playing her with like it used to double the power of all the cards in your hand or something. That might have been an early version because I actually did like some like early testing and stuff. But I remember like there was a Shuri deck very early on that was like you double your stuff and then you double them again, and like so I feel like if there's any kind of mechanics where like getting the second trigger of the same again is powerful, I think that for 2 cost repeating an important on reveal is probably powerful. So I'm gonna say this is a good card.
See, that's exactly the thing. This came out, and every content creator was like, "How is this possibly bad? There has to be something that we can duplicate that is good." There wasn't. It turns out you just It turns out you just can't play a 2-0. It turns out you just can't do that. Like it's like this like that is like the really like everyone was like, all right, there has to be something. This card it reads so
There's
broken.
nothing.
No,
No,
this card has like one of the lower win rates in the game. Like on
man.
Untapped, it's like 45%. And Untapped data is all biased high, right? Like Untapped data is all people self-reporting who are like spiky enough to get the Untapped tracker. It's all biased high, and this guy's still sub 50. And it's like
That's so
it's
funny.
just one of it reads like I said, I put a lot of cards that were specifically difficult to evaluate. I'm taking out my trauma on you here because like one of the things people also said about Grandmaster is like, well, it'll get better in the future. How could it not get better in the future, right? More on reveals come out. And it's like,
Right.
yes, sure. But by the same token, I don't know if it's more likely for this card to get better in the future than for any other card to get better in the future, right? Like meta games change and things move differently. And just because this card very obviously has its hook like written on it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to naturally improve more than other cards, which is a long way of
Right.
saying this is probably the best card they've ever released in terms of like if you're a card game designer, it feels like what you should be doing is releasing cards that people think are broken that aren't.
Yes. Yes, that is absolutely true. That's how you like sell the cards without breaking the game. Like the
Yes.
perfect card is one that looks OP but isn't.
That's this guy. This is that. This is the best example in Marvel Snap of like a card that is genuinely not good. That everyone was like, "This is so good" when it came out.
Yeah. I mean, I was working off like kind of like just trying to guess, and I was just like, what on reveals could there be?
Mhm.
So, and like I think I mentioned, even though I was wrong on this one, with the current state, my guess was wrong. I stand behind the logic. Like I feel like
Yeah.
if there was some strong on reveal, then this could be strong, and I just didn't know if there were. So
Yeah, you mentioned Shuri. Were you talking about Nakia? Because, like, I remember Nakia giving +2 to everything in hand. Shuri doubled what you played on her, but there wouldn't really be a way to weave that into your curve. Were you, like, super early beta testing?
I was like super. I was like friends and family alpha like years
Oh,
before.
wow.
Yeah, there was like this really broken Shuri deck. It used to be like I think it was like four mana. Or it was like three mana, 4 mana, something like that. It was like 4 mana and double the power of all like stuff. So I was just thinking, okay, like you do that, then you do this, and then on turn 6 you just like play a crazy amount of like Titania was like basically
Sure.
would have been. Titania I think it's still the 1 mana 5 that's like
Correct.
switch sides.
Yeah.
So there was used to be like this thing that you do like Shuri twice, and then on the last turn you play a 1 cost 20 Titania, and like you had like this. It was like a really OP deck in early testing that didn't like. I remember that they nerfed it, but like
That's fascinating.
it was like super broken. And it's like 1 mana. So your deck was like filled with the doubles, and then you just had the like 1 mana. Because if you had even a 1 cost like 3 power, it converted into 1 cost 12. So you just like play like this 1 cost 20s and 12s and 15s or whatever it was like. So yeah, so I was kind of like when I was evaluating this card, I was like kind of like trying to think that would something like that be possible again? Because this would be a useful
I
card
mean,
in that type of archetype.
if something like that existed, it would certainly be busted. I can tell you that much. Like, if that was real, that would be super messed up. Howard the Duck. 1/2.
Right.
Ongoing. Tap this, like literally tap it. You poke it. You poke the duck
Okay.
to see the top card of your deck. He will show you the top card of your deck if you want to know what the top card of your deck is.
Wow. Wow. I feel like I have to just guess if it's how beneficial it is to know your top card. I remember there's the card. I forgot the name of the card, but it's like four. At least used to be a 4 cost 1/1 that like pulls the top card to the
Jubilee.
battlefield. Yeah, Jubilee. Yeah. So like I guess this would be kind of useful with that, but at the same time, when I think about it more, it's like you only have so many turns to play the Jubilee, and like you want to play it on 4 almost like regardless, and there's no guarantee that it would be better on 5. I'm gonna say that this is a bad card. I just feel like gaining. My instinct tells me that the value that you gain from knowing the top card of your deck is just not as good as it might sound.
That is 100% correct. That
Hey! I
is
did
absolutely 100% exactly correct. Like, yes, if you are a Jubilee deck, what are you going to do? Not play her on 4? Come
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
And so it's like, this is also a thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to put it in there for my Jubilee. And then you pull your Howard off your Jubilee. And you're like, why did I do that? Why did I put this card in my deck? So like there's definitely like some real considerations there, but yeah, like I think this is like one that I throw on there in the hopes that I can finally trick someone with this card. One day I'm gonna get someone to say that it's good. The last time I did one of these, I got someone to say that it was good only because they did not know what tap meant. They thought it was like a magic tap ability, and so I had to clarify that this time, and I unfortunately, I did not get you with it, but I will get someone one day. One day I will convince someone that this card is good, and I will take a victory. I will leave the screen. I will take a victory lap around the room. No, this guy sucks. He's awful. Awful card. Garbage.
Yes.
Havoc.
All right.
After each turn, you lose 1 max energy, and this gains +4 power. Now, to be clear, you lose 1 max energy means that effectively, like, you're gaining an energy for the turn and then losing it to Havoc the previous turn. So whatever turn you play him on, that's kind of where you're stuck in terms of energy.
Interesting. That makes sense. Wow. I mean, my first instinct on this is that it sucks to lose your energy. But then when I think about it more, there might be some kind of like timing thing with this that it would work if you play it on like turn 5 exactly or something like that. If you're playing a deck that's just like, okay, like 4 mana is enough, so it would be like you play it on like turn 4 and then you have basically 12 power for 2 cost, or you play it on 5 and you have this is a tough one, man.
Because in your shoes, you're either like, this is the worst card ever, or this is a 2/12 and I'm gonna feel stupid, right? Like that's there are only two directions this can go, right?
Kind of, but I'm thinking like it still sounds kind of weak to like do the 12. I feel like it would turn 5 be the sweet spot for it. So if you play it on like but usually like six cost cards is just so good, and like at the end of the day, I think there might have been enough power creep that just having a 2 cost 8 power is not really like game winning, and like if you get this in your starting hand, it's kind of like dead for a long time. I'm gonna say that this is a bad card, but who knows?
You are correct, sir. This is generally regarded as a pretty poor card. You're also correct about the dynamics by which it could be good, right? Like, there are decks that have played this, not, too overwhelming metagame success, but like it's sort of like a rogue deck card that people can play. And in those decks, it is very often a turn 5 play. That is how it works. That is actually the sweet spot, turn 5. That is exactly the sweet spot, yes.
Nice. I'm actually proud of that one because I had no idea. Like I literally never even seen this card like in passing or anything. Like, well, actually, I haven't seen like any of these cards really. But like sometimes, like some of the cards, I know like some of the synergy cards, like the older ones and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Now Havoc's tough because it's like the only thing that determines whether he's good or not is if the numbers are good enough, right? So like there's a number at which this guy's super playable, right? Maybe if you got like +5 or +6, it's like that's like the best card in the game. Yeah. And it's all numbers with this guy. It's never anything about like anything else. It's just like, is this going to be so prohibitively large that it's worth it? Speaking of large boys, Gladiator, a 3/8 on a reveal. Add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of this location, but if it has less power than Gladiator, it gets destroyed.
Ooh. Oh man. Well, knowing like some of the mechanics, like sometimes if you play this on like location, for example, where your opponent already has like full location or something, and nothing happens, right? So then it's just 3 cost 8. But that's kind of like the thought process right now for me is that how good is a 3 cost 8 power? I could see the effect being it's probably pretty reliably, but it has the power to like just lose the game immediately, right? If you like play it just randomly. So, but what about? I'm trying to think about some of the locations. Like this location. There might be some like specific locations. Like let's say you have like what do they call it? Like the feature location of the day or something, where like this is just like okay, your opponent can only like play a certain amount of cards or whatever, like on and again, add a card from your opponent's deck. I'm gonna say that this is a. What is a 3 cost 8? Oh my goodness.
I could see your lips forming to say the word bad, and then you were like, "Man, 3/8's really good."
That's what. Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, maybe 3/8 is just really good. Like we can't ignore that. And it probably most of the time it wins. It's just the time when it doesn't beat the card, you just like instantly lose the game. Like maybe. Okay, I'm gonna say, tough one. I'm gonna say this is a bad card. I think that the situations where where you can like reliably kind of like wreck your opponent are just not frequent enough to like make up for the times when this like you just lose the game because like it was something big that is pulled.
Yeah, so this is a quite good card.
Ooh.
Because it is a 3/8. Like you were right on it, right? It's like this is a 3/8. Like, yeah, okay, look, sometimes I may lose the game when it pulls something prohibitively large and I just played like a 3-2.
Okay.
But like most of the time, this is a 3/8. And you're just really into a 3/8. Like this guy is so far above rate. Like that it is like when you look at like your normal, like we talked about like 3/5s with upside, right? But like the jump from 3/5 to 3/8 is so significant in terms of rate. Where it's just like if your opponent is playing, a 3/5 and you're playing a 3/8, you're ahead on that lane and you can leverage that the rest of the game, right?
I see.
And as long as he's not pulling something huge, which most of the time he's not, like even if you look at like 6-drops, right? Like stuff that he will kill a Hela, for example. He will kill a wide variety of cards. He's not at his best in certain metagames, but undeniably a good and useful card to have in your collection. And extremely good in like mid-range mirrors where neither of you are playing a lot of cards or any cards that are bigger than this guy.
Okay, that makes sense. Like it's just like I never it's just like if I had to like big, bad, or good, it's just like okay, like maybe the downside is too much, but yeah, it's still a 3-cost 3/8. So
well, what happened
like
was interesting, right? Like when it was released, it was a 3/7, and America Chavez has been nerfed in between being released in this. And when America Chavez was in every deck, and this was a 3/7, and it was just like every time you'd play it, it was like, well, I pulled America Chavez and I lost, right? Terrible card. But those two changes allowed it to be actually good.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this card?
I think this was like the last card that I drafted before I quit playing.
Okay.
So I have played a little bit with this, and I felt like it was kind of like mid at the time, but I don't know what the current status would be because like I don't know if they made any more cards.
They have not added any cards that high evolutionary effects.
Okay, so this is because I have played with this, and it was like a fun deck, but I would say that it's based on my like experience with this, that this was it wasn't quite like good enough to justify adding the like cards that had those extra abilities.
I think that's actually roughly fair, right? Like I think High Evo is a good deck, but it is never the best deck or the second best deck or the metagame defining deck. What it is very often is an excellent budget deck. Because effectively, when you buy High Evo, no matter where you are on the collection track, you end up getting like 7 new cards that you already own, right? It's not like if you buy Thanos and you need like 12 cards to synergize with him. A lot of the cards in the High Evo deck just come with him. You can create a good deck off of that, right? So, like, it's not like he's unplayable. It's just that he tends to be like a bridge card where you use High Evo with your early game collection to sort of get in the conversation with the best decks. And then you can have reasonable game into them. You're probably not like playing the best deck in the game, but if you're a good player, it won't really matter. And that is his role right now. I actually really like this card. Like, I think that generally he does not do enough to overcome the fact that you have to put a 4/4 into the deck, but he is a good card, and I love the role he serves in terms of helping people sort of enter competitive play on a relative budget.
Sounds about right.
So then you definitely remember this card, right?
I do know this
Okay.
is, but I don't. I guess technically it could be like better now. Let's keep this short because like, but I'm just gonna like because I kind of like have knowledge, but at the same time I kind of don't because I haven't followed the latest meta. But I remember that people when this came out, the people were like before playing it, it was just like, wow, like this is kind of like crazy. But then it ended up being like completely terrible. I remember it was terrible. So I'm gonna say that it's still terrible, but I could see technically that there would be some chance where like some of the new cards have made it better. But yeah, I'm gonna say that it sucks.
This was effectively a confidence check. I wanted to see if you would be like, no, this was terrible when I played. That definitely hasn't changed. He wouldn't put it on there just to make sure. And you know what? You were right. You passed the confidence check. Yeah, he still sucks. He still sucks. Don't worry. He's still bad. But yeah, no, it's just like a confidence check. Like, all right, so let's see if we can get him there. But yes, no, he's still bad, and also I think a great comparison to Grandmaster, both in terms of not really doing anything, like 0 power. This happens a lot. Like there's a through line here, but a card that releases and people are like, oh my god, that's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Martyr. 1/5. At the end of the game, move to a location that loses you the game if possible. She is reverse Captain Marvel.
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. Move to locations that lose the game.
It's great text.
That's funny. I'm a little bit like circling back to the Shuri that apparently doesn't even exist anymore, but like
does not even come close to
it doesn't even, yeah, but it's just like this is, yeah, like I'm gonna say that if you can like double this to a 1/10 or something, like it's just I think this is probably bad. Like it's just, sure, it's a lot of power, but like there's some cards that where you can like, when you lose a lane, you lose it by so much that this is just going to be like kind of worthless, right? Like it's just no. Like it only requires to have one lane where the 5 power doesn't matter, right? So
yeah.
So that's, I'm gonna say this is bad.
You would be correct. This is a very bad card, an extremely bad card. Like I always ask a second question with Martyr, which is, what number would she need to have? You can change either the cost or the power.
Okay.
Whichever one you want, both if you want. Put numbers on this card that make her playable.
Okay. So kind of like circling back to the logic, which made me say this is bad, is that there only needs to be one lane where you are like, where your opponent is winning by 6 or more, then it's worthless card. So like, what would be the number? If this costs 0.
Okay.
I think it would be like, let's say it was 0/5, because then like on your last turn you can like just kind of like, you know, just get it in or whatever. Like it's just, or you pay some kind of deck that would like kind of like flood the locations a little bit so it doesn't have the room to move to a bad lane, or like, you know, like, so like 0/5 or 1. I'm gonna say 8. 1/8.
Okay. That's like, I've had people say like 1/20. Like it's just like unplayable.
No.
1/8 or 0/5.
I think 1/8 would be 1/8 or 0/5.
Okay. If it was 0, could you accept like 0/4, 0/3, or does it have to be 5?
Oh, good question. I think 3 would be too little. Would 0/4 be like? But this is all again like, I haven't really played so like in a long time and stuff. So
I just like having fun with this. This is fun for me.
I don't think. I think that 0/4. 0/4 it would still be bad. I think it's just like 4 is just like, there's gonna be one lane where you're like losing by more than 4, and then it's just like, yeah. But if the 0 cost is significant, because then like maybe you're gonna get those synergies and stuff. You know, like if you have all 3 locations full, for example, then it doesn't, like, it's the downside goes away effectively. So like if you fill the location, then you have a 0 cost like thing that's just like, you know, for free you get power. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, like she is a bad card, but not like an unplayable card. Where like Howard the Duck is like, just like you put it in your deck, everything is going. Yeah, like at least if you're playing Martyr, you don't like slap her in whatever. It's like you can come up with a logical reason to play her, which is like, I am playing Zoo and I need another 1/5 or whatever, like things like that. It's like you can come up with reasons to do it. She doesn't go in anything particularly good. Whereas like I think with Howard the Duck, he has anti-synergy with the only deck he's supposed to go into. Where it's like, I'm putting him in my Jubilee deck, and then I'm making it my Jubilee less reliable by putting a 1/2 in it, right? Like, it's the opposite of that, where it's like, this is a card that is bad, but like not like, you know, just like fundamentally unfixable the way I think something like Howard is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Quake. On reveal, swap the positions of the other two locations. So wherever you play her, the other two swap over.
Yeah. So this, I have to come clean here. This is actually the third card that I have seen before. Like we had the High Evolutionary, we had the
They
Kong, and
changed her. This is a different
Oh
Quake than
wait.
you remember.
Oh.
That's what I'm
Oh, they
telling you.
did.
Yeah.
Swap the
Now
position of
the other two locations. She's no longer random. Wherever you put her, the other
I
two
see.
flip.
Oh, okay. Okay, it used to be like random, so she could do
Yes,
the one
she
this
was
season, so it
terrible.
was like absolutely unplayable. Absolutely
Totally.
unplayable.
Yes.
But now that you point that out, though, like that definitely makes her better, like because you have control over it now. Wow. I mean, she has to be good at least on some feature locations, right? Because like I don't know which ones exactly, but there has to be some like if the feature location is everything gets or like the one where the player with less power is winning or something.
Bar with no name. Yeah.
Yeah, so like this has to be good at least on those feature locations, because then you can kind of like play her kind of late and just but hmm. Like it's judging how silent you are right now. It's like I feel like
Oh,
I'm
I'm
digging a
making
hole for
faces.
myself here.
I'm making
It's like
faces in the
I'm like
camera.
digging a hole for myself, saying
Yeah.
this is good and it's actually bad. That's
Well,
the kind of the
it's more
energy.
like no, it's more like, you're right that she is good on featured location days some of the time, right?
Yeah.
But what about in the real world?
In the real, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no because maybe the benefit of swapping like normal locations just kind of like doesn't justify having the card because like 2 cost 3 power. That's not good. Like that is not enough. It can't possibly be enough. So like if you play 10 games, like how many out of those 10 games would Quake really like swing the game by swapping the locations? And it's also like you have to play her in a location like not because like but just to like affect the other two.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with okay. It's bad.
I think that's closer to correct. Like I think I would say Quake's like a pretty okay card, but like the issue she has is she's specifically there like to rob your opponent of cubes, which means she's as good as she is unexpected. Which means
Mm,
basically what happens is like a mid-range deck will run this and scam someone one time. But like you've played High Legend Ladder in these other games before. Once you get got by it, you're like, this person has that card. And then you were like, okay, I can play around that card, right?
yeah,
And
true.
so this is a card where it's like, I personally think there are situations where it's like, I should just put a Quake in this deck, but it's hard to justify finding the space in a lot of decks to play a card that is only going to rob cubes and only going to do it as long as your opponent isn't expecting it. Now, I also think this is like a streamer thing, right? Because my
Mhm.
Quakes as a streamer, they're worse than other people's Quakes. Not just like, oh, people are sniping me, but like a lot of the people I play are in my chat and they know I'm playing Quake because they've seen my deck list. They're
Yeah,
watching me,
just
right?
know that you're playing it, even if they're
Yes.
not. Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think there's a chance that I personally underrate this card because of the streamer effect. But
Interesting.
all of that said, I agree with you. I think generally I would say not a good card. However, it is of all the not very good cards that we've talked about today, the one that I am by far the most likely to run.
Okay.
You will almost certainly catch me playing this before like Martyr or whatever. Like this is a card I could actually play. There are real worlds in which I play it. It's just probably never on stream. Because as
It's
soon
not.
as anyone knows I
Yeah.
have it, I cannot play this card anymore.
Honestly, like good or not, like it sounds kind of fun. Like it's just like
Hmm.
switching those around and like.
You think that's? Ooh, I don't know. My big
No.
worry. I was really afraid of this card when it was released in this form. I was like, this is going to be the worst thing ever. No one knows how to play around a turn 6 Quake. Well, how do you play around a turn 6 Quake if you're both running Quake? And that was my fear. Where it's
Oh
just like
God.
that sounds like the worst thing ever. And we have avoided that timeline so far.
Okay.
But I pray we continue to avoid it because that really does sound awful.
Hmm.
Proxima Midnight, 4/7. When this is discarded, she shows up at your lowest power location.
Uh, I think that's good. Like like discarding that's like it's 7 power that you can get for free on the board. Like, and I think this is kind of like the same thing with that. Uh, what was the thing? The 1/5 that moves to the worst
Martyr.
location at the end.
Yeah.
Martyr, yeah. So this is kind of like the same energy because it kind of like goes to the location that you're not winning. But I have to say that like 7 is a better number than 5.
That is
So
true.
so I don't know the exact like situation with the discard decks, but I remember seeing like a glimpse of something that's like the card that was I think it was Modok that like discards your entire hand and like that kind of stuff. Like I don't know if that's any good, but on its own like these days or whatever. But like, the, yeah, I think 7 power is a lot, and if you can get it for free. I don't know exactly what deck and what conditions. Like how do you discard it? Can you maybe there's a chance that it's you can't really control it enough to discard exactly this, and or maybe there's other discard cards that are better. But just 7 power, I think that's enough to make this card good.
No, you Modoc it. You were right. Yeah. You Modoc this card, and the difference between this and Martyr is not just like, oh, the like 7/5. This one happens, and then you can continue to play. Martyr happens
Yeah,
at the end,
right.
right?
True. Yes,
And
that's a big
yeah,
difference too.
this was also kind of a confidence check because like I go into this, I'm like, all right, it's time for the hard ones, and then I give you this, and you're like, this can't be that simple, but it is that simple. This is a free 7. It's awesome.
Okay.
It's just a great card.
Yeah, 7 power. It's a lot.
Yep. Super Giant on
Oh my
reveal.
goodness.
All cards played next turn don't reveal until the game ends.
Oh boy, now we're getting into the guessing territory. Never seen this one before, and I don't know what you would play with this with.
Yep.
I have to guess if there's other synergy cards because I know that like Second Dinner likes doing that, where they kind of like reveal like cards that work well together. So or like release cards more than that. So they release a card and then there's another one that synergizes with it, like getting released like near the same time zone. So I don't know if that's what happened here, but I feel like there could be another card that would work well with this in order for them to like make this in the first place. Could there, is there? So I'm guessing that like the goal with this would mostly be that you're planning to play a turn 5 that you don't want to be revealed, whatever it would be. What we are doing is we want to play a 5 that doesn't get revealed immediately. But I don't know what that would be. I don't know if there is anything that's good enough at 5. So we are purely in the speculative zone right now. Like, is there a 5 mana card you want to play? I'm gonna say that this is not good because even if there was something that's like really synergistic with this, you would kind of like have to have this on 4 and have to have that on 5. But I could be wrong also. Like if there's some kind of like mana ramp where you play this before turn 4 and then like But yeah, I'm gonna say that this is bad.
You are correct. It took a while to get there. This is a bad card, and it is mostly because of what you detailed, where it's like, I don't really know what goes with this. Typically, like, what you do is you do, like, you play Super Giant, and then, like, maybe you'd put, like, a card that copies an on-reveal face down, and then you'd play the on-reveal you wanted to copy. Like, that was typically how she was played. You're right that she can also be used to protect big 5s, right? Like, if you don't want your 5 drop to get Shang-Chi'd, she can do that, too. But generally, most of the time, she's just in a spot where it's like, she doesn't have enough power. Her ability is not the most useful thing in the world. Yes, she can stop your opponent from playing like a tentpole 5-drop, like a Sarah or something. That can be impactful, but like that's not super relevant right now. And so you end up in a lot of spots where it's just like, this card could be literally anything else, and it would be significantly better for me. She's hard to build around. Not a very good card right now.
It's just like when I just look at it, like 4 cost and only 5 power. Like the payoff from this would have to be huge, and it's just hard to see like payoff that big. Like if she was a 4 cost like 7 power or something like that, that would be a whole different ball game. But
yeah, I think the issue with cards like this, they release them every so often, where it's like, how strong do you want this card to be? Like, if this is like a dominant metagame thing, this is like a 4/7, a 4/8 that's just like played in a bunch of places. Is that fun? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Phoenix Force, a 4/5 on reveal ability. Revive one of your destroyed cards and merge with it. That card can move each turn. This one, I think, requires probably the most contextual knowledge to evaluate.
And I have none.
You have none.
So
yes,
I do not have. I have not got any wind of what you would play with this. So
yeah, so like this can go multiple ways. I think.
Yeah, I'll speculate a little bit here. So on a real team, I wanted to disregard measurement. So if you're playing a destroy deck, like you would imagine you get something out of this every time you play it. So like, what would be the average outcome? Like, would it have 3 power? Would it have 4 power? Is this like a 4 cost 9 power maybe? Also, like, okay, this is like a mechanics question, so you can probably answer this. Like, when you revive another card, like any of the effects from that other card, do they like stay?
Yeah, they all happen.
Okay, they all happen.
They all stay. I mean, like it becomes that other card. Just
it's like ongoing effects are like staying and all that.
Yeah, okay. So like if you revived, I don't know what's the example we're gonna use here. If you revived a Bucky Barnes, it would have the Bucky Barnes text.
Oh,
still, right?
so okay, so you basically get like a dead card back, and then you add 5 power to it.
Yeah, and the ability to move.
And the ability to move. Wow. Oh man. I'm just like, what are we reviving with this? That's what I'm thinking right now. Like, there has to be something specific to revive. God can move. Like, so we would get to move it like twice. But like, what kind of deck has something that both benefits from moving and benefits from destroying? So it would like kind of have to be like move discard deck. But like if there's one thing that I've learned in my 10 years of playing card games, it's like when you do decks that have like 2 things that they're doing, like, oh, let's do a discard and destroy. Like, that sucks. Like, you should focus either on discard or you should focus on destroy. So like having like someone move beneficial destroy deck, this is like, as a concept, that's just not a successful one on like a basic level of like deck design usually. But I mean, if there are some like particular other cards that naturally do both things, like, it's not impossible. But I'm gonna say that this is a bad card. Because I feel like in the first couple of turns, like playing like a significant 1 or 2 drop and destroying it. It feels like it's a really specific line, which like you play a card that's valuable to revive, and then you like destroy on turn 1 or 2, and then you destroy it on 3. But it's also like if you're playing like destroy deck and you destroyed more than one thing, it's like you could revive the wrong thing.
Okay.
Like, so yeah, I'm gonna say bad.
Here's what I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
If I told you that the exact line you just described of play something that you want to revive with Phoenix Force, destroy it, and then bring it back with Phoenix Force was a viable line, do you think you could name the card you're trying to destroy?
Let's think about it. If it's an old card, hold on.
It is. It's a card you know. There are 2 of them, and you know them.
Oh, so are we talking about the 1-drops, like Deadpool and X?
No, Deadpool and X23 doesn't work. No, I mean, a card you know, like, that was out when you played.
Destroyed.
Yeah, that was out when you played. A card you know. We're talking like you had this card. You had both of these cards.
Okay. Oh wow. I don't want to take too long here, but
if you can't, I'm happy to tell you. I wanted to see if you could get it because I feel like you nailed the play pattern, and I wanted to see if you could.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'll give you a hint. It is related to the fact that the card can move each turn. That is important.
They used to be the card that, like, when it goes to a location, it gives like everything in the location 1 power. Is that the one?
No, I don't even know what that card is.
Blink.
That's not real. You're remembering something from like the early acts. That's never
Oh,
been a real
oh
card for
yeah.
anyone else. Yeah.
Okay, so there used to be like I don't I think this was long enough ago. There used to be like a 2-cost 1/1. It was like whenever it
Okay.
moves to a location, everything in the location gets buffed. So I was thinking like
Whoa.
if we were like if we like destroyed that and then we made it like Phoenix Force with that, so then you could like move somewhere, buff everything in it on turn 5, and then move somewhere. Like, but if that's not even a card, yeah, that's
I'll
definitely
just
not
tell
it.
you then. I'll just
Yeah,
tell
just
you
tell
then.
me. Just tell me.
It's Human Torch and Multiple Man.
Oh, Human Torch, a multiple
Human
man.
Torch
Okay.
doubling the power, so like it'll come back as a 7 and then go to 14, 28, right? Then you
Multiple
like
man. Oh man, I
and
actually used to
Multiple
play that card
Man.
too.
Yeah,
I should
Multiple
have figured
Man,
that one
you
out.
just get a
Yeah.
bunch of 8s, right? Because each of the copies can move too. And so it's
Okay.
just 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 everywhere. And that's
I
the
am
combo
familiar
line.
with both of the cards. I just like
Yeah.
it's been so long, so I couldn't like remember. But yeah,
I just wanted to
that
see if
makes
you could
sense.
get it because like the Phoenix Force deck actually does the exact thing you described, which is it plays one of those, it blows it up on 3, and then it plays Phoenix Force. That is
Yeah.
exactly the
Yeah.
thing that it does. It is hybridized with like Shuri Nimrod typically. I don't know if you know what those cards are. You might remember Nimrod, but basically it's hybridized with
Mm,
another sort of combo plan that kind of goes with it. It would not be viable on its own to just play that Phoenix Force game plan. You are correct that it is a little bit too finicky on its own, but it does end up being actually good when hybridized into other decks.
okay, I believe you.
Or more like other decks are hybridized into it.
I could that's actually I could have probably figured it out if I spent more time on that because like I am very familiar with both those cards, the Human Torch and the Multiple Man. So if I like if I had to think about it or if I was thinking about it for like a longer period of time, like oh shit, like we can pull off that like
Yes.
consistently. Have one of the two and then like destroy it on 3 and then play this on 4 and then like
Yeah.
yeah. So I could that was one that I got wrong now that I could have figured out. So that's
This is what I
that's
mean. Where
okay.
it's like this is one that takes the most context, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like you have to know all this specific stuff to
Yeah.
understand how this card is good. Because when you read this card, it has reading this card like the base thought process of looking at it has absolutely nothing to do with how it's actually played. Like nothing to do. This card is only played in the context of other cards,
Okay.
and I think that's like a really fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
War Machine on reveal.
Oh boy.
Until the end of next turn, nothing can stop you from playing cards anywhere.
Oh, I mean, okay, we have the 4/6 stat line here. That's a little better than the 4/5 that we've seen like usually be a bad one, but I don't know if that's enough. This sounds like it'll be some kind of like meta call. Like if there's something particular that's like really popular in the meta. But I think at the end of the day, it's like a pretty simple card, and it seems like I think that like just like kind of like pulling from other card games as well. It's just I think that the situations where like that effect is powerful is like a little too narrow. It's like a tech card that's just not gonna be needed that often. So I'm gonna say this is a bad card.
Correct. That's exactly correct. When it came out, people were really excited because it's like, oh, I can play the Infinite now. But it turns out that even that is just a little bit too finicky. And
Yeah.
this is a card that sort of solves its own problems. By which I mean, like, if there is ever a metagame that calls for War Machine, he puts a stop to it so fast that a metagame that calls for War Machine kind of can't exist, right? He is
see.
too good at his own niche. If he was ever to become a relevant tech card, it would be in a world where everyone was playing Lockdown. And it's like, well, because he exists, no one can play Lockdown. Like, you can't even try. He stops people from doing that thing. And I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Second to last one. All right. The Living Tribunal.
Oh,
You
boy.
might remember this card.
I do, but I didn't have this. I never played this. And I don't think anyone else played it either. So I'm just like kind of like from like the base that like nobody played it back then, I would be like, so yeah, this is the third card. It's like exactly, I think at least the effect is like exactly the same. So yeah, that have seen before out of the ones.
It's
Actually,
got more power, but yeah.
yeah, I wanted to say that I by the way that that I was actually worried that I would have like known more cards than I have known today because it's sort of like Gong and this and then
Look,
the the four
I'm
cost
good at my
4/4.
job. You gave me
You
the
did excellent
parameters.
job. And like
Yeah.
this has been sometimes like cards that I know from the past are like
Yeah.
kind of influencing and like knowing the game mechanics, but like yeah, this has been I think this has worked out really well even with my knowledge of some of the stuff. So anyway, back to this card. Um, this was not very good back then, but
Mhm.
this could be one of those cards that with power level going up, if you have some kind of like, combo where you just get like could get 2000 power on a single location, I guess technically it could work, but at the same time, like I feel like there's probably some counterplay. Like if Living Tribunal deck was ever good, it's just like there has to be a bunch of ways to like counter that. Let's just like stop ongoing effects or like remove card text if leech is still a thing or like I feel like this goes in the bucket of like okay like maybe you can catch someone off guard with like an unexpected combo where you just get one location to be 2000 power. It's like some kind of like janky combo, but when it comes to like saying if a card is good or not, if this ever was good, I think there would be very easy counters to it. So just based on like I'm gonna go by that. I think this is easy to counter, so it can be good.
It is easy to counter, but it has a real role in some
Ooh,
metagames where
okay.
it's like just what Living Tribunal is the key piece to just like the biggest possible amount of points you can put on the board, right?
Yeah.
It's the highest possible thing. And so in a world where people are not playing a lot of the counters to it, something like Enchantress, for example, turning
Right.
off all the ongoings,
Yeah,
this
Enchantress.
shows up to just chin check the other combo decks. It's like,
Mm,
oh, we're both doing combo stuff? Sorry, dude. I'm doing something bigger, right? It reminds me a lot of playing, I guess, like let's use a magic analogy, right? I'm playing like white weenie into,
yeah.
a deck with a Wrath of God, right? I'm just like whether or not you have it is the only thing that matters. Do you have the answer? Because if you don't have
I
the
see what you
answer,
mean.
you're going to die.
Ooh,
And that is what
yeah.
this card does.
So this is like a rock paper scissors type of card,
Yeah, it's
kinda.
strong enough that it's rock paper scissors rather than just being mono unplayable,
Okay.
right? Like you can play this deck, just you're gonna get chin checked some of the time.
Yeah, that's actually the type of like I think Marvel Snap is a really cool game, but that's like if I don't know how often that kind of things, but it's just like let's say that like okay, I'm gonna look carried away, but anyway, it's like
Do it.
generally speaking, that type of things where it's like really good against some stuff and really bad against some like I don't like those type of mechanics very much in like
I
any card
agree.
game.
I agree with you. I personally think that Marvel Snap has, every card game has issues, but the one that stands
Oh
out
yeah,
to me the most right now is there's these like variety, like it feels like there's a constant presence in the metagame of combo decks that are just like I'm not interacting with you. If you don't have the answer, you die. If you do have the answer, I die. And they really sort of strip the interactive fun out of a game that
mm,
is really an interactive game. Like there's 3 locations, you're playing for various things, and these combo decks just
yeah,
sort of take that and like tear it down. And they've been a pretty constant presence in the metagame for the last few months, I would say. And,
okay.
some people certainly love them. I'm just not one of them.
It's the same for like Hearthstone. Like this, it's really like it's very divisive because some people really enjoy it, and especially
Yeah.
like it's a type of decks that often are more fun to play than they are to play against. But it's still like you're playing a two-player game. Like fun of
Yeah.
both players like, is like very important. So it's like, do you focus on that? Like, okay, I have this cool combo and it's really fun, and I love the game because it's this, or are you on the camp that's like, just oh my god, I hate playing against this so much. It's just like I could see it both ways.
I definitely can too. I mean, I know what I feel, but I also understand that as a designer, you want people to feel like they can do this kind of stuff in your
Oh
game.
yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Like if you build it like I don't know what's like a realistic number to do on a location with this, but if you do like 1000 power or whatever, like that's probably like feels pretty cool, you know.
Yeah. It seems super dope. Yes, absolutely. Last one, most text in the game. You ready?
All right.
Nico Minoru, on reveal. After you play your next card, cast a spell. The spell changes each turn. What that means effectively is she
Okay.
has a bunch of different potential on reveals. She rotates through each of them in your hand once per turn. So you'll see when you draw her, she'll have a text A, and then the next turn she'll have a different text. There's no order, it
Mm,
is random.
Can you show some of the spells? Or?
Absolutely. No, I'm just going to make you guess without... Yes, of course I can show you the spells.
Yeah. Okay.
On reveal, after you play your next card, it becomes a demon.
Okay.
A demon being a 1/6. Like from the hood. On reveal, after you play your next card, destroy it to draw 2 cards.
Okay.
On reveal, after you play your next card, move it 1 location to the right. On reveal, after you play your next card, give it +2 power. On reveal, after you play your next card, replace that card's location. On reveal, after you play your next card, add a copy of it to your hand. And on reveal, after you play your next card, double this card's power.
Man, when I heard the first couple, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like,
yeah, no, the first 2 are super good, and then you go
through
the rest.
It's starting getting worse and worse. I'm like, and it's so like uncontrollable. I was just thinking, this is once again where like I'd never seen this card before, and I don't know if it's good. I have no idea. I'm just gonna guess, but I have like enough knowledge that I know there's another card called like the Hood, which gives you also like the demon stuff. It's like this.
It's the same demon.
Minus power. Yeah, so I figured. So like when there was the card, the next card played it gets destroyed. Like that's a good combo, right? Like you can destroy your Hood, and then you don't get the minus power, and maybe there's something else you also want to like destroy. But oh man, when you were showing like the later ones and all that, it was just like, oh, like the more there are spells, the less real like consistent and reliable it is, and it's just I feel like this is a little too like inconsistent, and even though you can like pull it, there certainly has to be spots where like you can get a lot of power, but it's just like at the core of its like thing, it's a 1 cost 2 power, and that's just doesn't sound that strong. That like if there I want to say that if there are like if you get this on 1 and you follow it up with something specific, like where it's like beneficial that it gets destroyed, it would be good. But even then, like it looks like there were like 6 spells or something like that, 7, whatever.
7.
It's just like it seemed like it's too inconsistent. You might not like get the effect. Like maybe you have a Hood in your hand, but then the effect is like, oh, the power gets doubled. Like no, it's just like, are you gonna mess up your own curve or like float mana or like, and that's 2 cards in your hand that you just like trying the time. Like I think this is bad.
Here's the thing, it's very good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Nico is at the very least a destroy staple. She goes in every destroy deck right now. Wow. And that's for 2 reasons. There are 2 specific spells. Like, obviously, the first spell that, like, makes her really good in destroy is this one, right? Like,
first two or 3 that you showed were like, I was like, oh my god, this card owns. But then it's just like, the last 3 were not as impressive.
This one's super messed up.
Wow.
Right? But also...
Yeah, that's really good.
This one, like, you hit a Deadpool with +2 power. That's really good, right?
Oh,
that's a good thing to do.
I didn't think of that. Okay.
This one, you clone your very large Venom. Like, you know the Carnage and Venom and cloning vats thing? This will give you an extra copy of that giant Venom. This will do that in that deck.
Oh, man.
And
this is another... Okay, yeah.
One more. Destroy doesn't have location control normally. This gives it location control. In a way that, like, you know, it's not always going to get used, but like 3 to 5 of these are genuinely good for the deck. And
this is very interesting.
It's a staple. Yeah. It's a staple destroy card.
Right? Wow. So this is the second card that I like. Out of how many did we do? Was it like 18 or whatever?
I think it was like 18. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of all the cards that we did, there were 2 cards that I feel like I could have figured out based on like my knowledge of the game and like of other cards. It was this one. If I thought about it, when you start mentioning those cards, I'm like, oh my god, in destroy, of course, because you already like naturally have a bunch of things that you want to destroy. So that makes perfect sense. I think I could have figured this one out. And the Phoenix that you mentioned, because like the multiple mana and that, I think that's another one that I could have like figured out. But yeah, wow, wow, yeah.
And that's going to be
sense.
it.
When you explain it, like I'm like, of course, yeah. Like,
right. That is the downfall of this situation. Is just like I feel like what happens to my guests is they make like all these incredible reads and guesses, and then I'm just like, no, actually, it's this. And then I explain it, and then they're like, oh man, why didn't I know that? So it's like, I feel bad. I feel bad sometimes about the format of the show.
It's all good.
That is it for me. Savjz, I know that you have done a million things in terms of card games. You've been MPL, the Hearthstone God, you had... What? Okay, fine. I won't say that. Hearthstone
No,
professional. There, I downgraded you. I hope you're happy. You've been a Gwent player. You are currently, I believe, playing Lorcana rank
I'm playing
1.
Lorcana.
You're rank 1,
Gwent
right?
is actually, I have to correct you there. Gwent is like the one game that I've never played. I have not played 1 second of Gwent, but
Hold on. I know there's a famous clip of you where you get like RNG'd in Hearthstone and you go, fuck this, I'll play some Gwent.
I mean,
You have played
sounds,
1
yeah,
second of Gwent. I guarantee it.
So that clip is real. Like I'm sure that that is real. Like it sounds like something I would say, but I actually have never even like installed Gwent. Like I have not
Oh
played
my
a second. It's
God.
just like screw this game. Like I'm
gaslit.
playing Gwent, but I didn't actually I never played Gwent. I never played Gwent.
Okay.
But that is like the only one that I haven't played. I played like pretty much all, well, okay, not the only one, but like I have certainly done quite a bit, and I've spent like 2 years playing auto battlers, or even more than that,
Sure,
in between, and then like Hearthstone. And now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I was with Team Liquid for 10 years, which came to an end like in the beginning of February. So actually, since like February, I've been kind of like just chilling a little bit. So I'm like taking a bit of a breather. I wouldn't call myself retired from card games or retired from content creation. I would never use those kind of words, but right now I'm just like I'm enjoying Lorcana. I'm just like playing the amounts that I want to play. I'm streaming like, because after 10 years of like having this like must stream 100 plus hours a month, like I'm for the first time I'm just like, okay, I don't have to stream, and I can take 2 weeks off. I can go on vacation and not like get stressed out and all that. So yeah,
That's
but I'm
crazy.
excited
Because like you're talking like, oh, I'm just kicking back, being lazy. He's number 1 on the Lorcana ladder. For anyone watching this, like, oh yeah, just taking a nice little vacation, and number 1 on the Lorcana ladder. Oh,
well, that game is still in like, it's kind of in baby shoes. Like it's really taking off. Like it's so Lorcana is a physical TCG, but there's a pretty good like a non-profit online client that's like free, made by a fan, like an unofficial client. But yeah, I'm very excited, and like I'm planning on playing a lot of events for that, and just enjoying myself. But the game is not doing the numbers, in that way that it would be like some kind of like huge like content creation zone. It's just like, it's more like a hobby than like what Hearthstone, for example, like maybe Hearthstone started as a hobby for me, but then it got like more like professional like content creation type. So but yeah, I'm always looking out for new card games, also like old card games, like whenever things change, new game modes come out, like I always have an eye out. Like even Marvel Snap, like I'm trying to keep it on my radar. Like I follow a bunch of amazing content creators like yourself on like Twitter, and I haven't really like look at the decks of the cards or that kind of stuff, but I almost like if they do like a major update, and I'm usually like interested to see how everything is going in the card game sphere everywhere. And it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm taking a breather right now and expecting to like, at some point start striking again, whether it's a new game or some kind of old game that I feel passionate about. But just following my instincts on what I think is good.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. You said you were on a breather. Do you want to shout out your socials, or are you just like, nah, I'm good? Like,
yeah, sure. Yeah,
do
your
like, stuff, right?
Savjz, SAVJZ on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch. I'm kind of like streaming pretty randomly right now, and my like YouTube also like I haven't been doing videos yet. I've been live streaming on both services, and it's been mostly Lorcana as of late. But yeah, I'm pretty inconsistent right now, but always into all kinds of card games. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just agreed to do this. I DM'd you cold on Twitter. I was like, do you want to do this? You were like, yeah, this guy loves card games. He's just
like, man, like, I've made a living out of it. Like, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone unless you're, like, already doing well or, like, anything. But, like, I dropped out of university, basically. I was, like, this close to done. I was really close to done, and then, like, things just got crazy, and rest is history. Like, it's my career now. Like, it's just, like, that's all I've been doing, like, ever since I I dropped out. It was like 11 years ago now, 10 and a half years ago. I dropped out of school and started doing card games, and still, I love every second of it. So
You heard it here first, chat. Everyone in the comments, I want you to know this. If you're still watching right now, drop out of school to do card game content.
no.
That's
We had a Twitch channel that was doing well. Okay, if you have a Twitch channel or YouTube or something, like start and keep like loving it. I think that that's the most important thing. Like you just have to you have to be into the game like that you make content for. You have to just be like, oh my god, like enjoy it, because it takes so much time. I know you put a lot of time in your content and it's like making videos like this one and everything. It's just like I think it's a really really cool thing. But yeah.
I was gonna cut it on that gag of you going no, but now I'm gonna cut it here instead because you said something very nice about me and I'd like that to be on the public record. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.